it may look like I'm in Great Britain where the Nissan Qashqai is made. No, no, no. I'm in Nashville, Tennessee, or Franklin, close enough. Not so far away from where they build other Nissans, like the Rogue, the Pathfinder, for example. But the reason I'm with this British-made subcompact crossover that we used to get as the Rogue Sport, the reason I'm driving it is because this has an all-new third-gen ePower hybrid system that will be employed in the upcoming Rogue. So in today's video, we're going to have some fun in the Qashqai. I'm going to tell you what it's like to drive and why you should be excited for Nissan's return of the Rogue hybrid. It's been many years since we've had a hybrid in the Rogue. This powertrain is coming to save the day for Nissan. Underneath the hood of the Qashqai, which it has been refreshed. So this past summer, 2025, Nissan refreshed this Rogue, so it looks cooler, a little bit more up to date on the outside, but under the hood, we have a new generation of ePower hybrid. ePower is what Nissan calls their series hybrid. This is an all-new engine and it replaces the old 3-cylinder VC turbo. We have a derivative of that 3-cylinder VC turbo in the Rogue, made it to a CVT stateside. But with this ePower, they've replaced it with an all-new 1.5-liter 3-cylinder turbo engine with a fixed compression ratio of 13:1. And because it's updated, it has a 42% internal combustion efficiency, or thermal efficiency, you could say. And as a result, you don't need the VC turbo. In fact, the VC turbo just causes a lot of issues for Nissan. So this new engine is going to be great, and it only acts as a generator here in this ePower setup. Now, fuel economy wise, you can expect probably by the time this hits the States, upper 40s. This small vehicle gets over 50 miles per gallon, and that's United States gallons, not imperial gallons, but over 50 miles per gallon stateside when I did the conversions. This is a front-wheel drive vehicle, but you better believe that the ePower that's going to be powering the Rogue will have dual motor all-wheel drive. This is 100% electric motor driven with Nissan's updated 5-in-1 hybrid setup, which makes it more efficient and cheaper to manufacture versus outgoing ePowers. What are we talking about horsepower? As my hands are freezing as I left 80-degree weather in Florida to come to 33-degree weather here in Nashville, you're going to have 200 horsepower roughly, 190 all the time, but in sport mode it can go up to about 205 horsepower, and we're seeing about 240 pound-feet of torque here. All right, again, this is in front-wheel drive. And the crazy thing is this has a 14.5 gallon tank. So when you multiply that by over 50 miles per gallon, that's almost 750 miles of range stateside. Quite incredible, and I can't wait to test drive it. So I closed the hood there and the engine did decide to shut off. Remember, the engine only works as a generator. It does have a 2.1 kilowatt hour battery, which is honestly a lot bigger than most hybrids that we see in the United States. For example, a big hybrid like the Sienna doesn't even have a battery pack as big as this small subcompact crossover. All right, so here's a refreshed front end of the Qashqai, and you can see that it does have similar design elements as the newly redesigned Sentra here in the United States. Now in pictures, I thought this front end looked a little busy, and well, I think in person it actually looks quite fantastic. Now if you're wondering what this is for, well, they had to put this on a boat to get here, so this is the anchor point to keep it anchored on that boat. We have, I mean, this is a very premium model, let's be real. Just because it's a smaller car doesn't mean it's not very premium. I mean, this is roughly the same size as the Kicks in the United States, but it looks a lot more upscale. It very well could be an Infiniti. In fact, I don't know why they just don't bring this over from Europe and badge it as an Infiniti. That would make sense to me. This Qashqai, it's very, very nice. 19-inch wheels here. It looks like it has some aero covers on it. You know, it does from the side kind of look like a shrunken down Rogue. Just the right amount of window chrome. The roof rails up top that match it. I love this dark green. It could be the new teal color that you see on the refreshed Pathfinder, for example. The rear taillights are very, very premium. Look amazing. And in fact, kind of reminds me of Lexus taillights, except they're flipped upside down. All right, there's that ePower badge, Qashqai, on that rear hatch. And interestingly, there are no exhaust pipes that you can see. There is one over here on the left hand side, and when the engine does fire on, you do hear it. Okay, let's lift up the rear hatch. Like the Rogue, we kind of have this customizable rear cargo, which I'm not gonna mess with too much because once I mess this up, I can't put it back together very well. We do have a 12-volt accessory port back here. Look, lights on each side, quite nice for a subcompact, and it is automated hatch here. What kind of rear space do we have in the rear? Well, these doors feel very, very light. Hard touch at the top, which, you know, it's a Nissan, okay? But look at this stitching and this nice soft material on the inside. Look at these stitched seats in the back. Very, very premium feeling leather seats. We do have USB-Cs in the back, dual vents in the back seat. Headroom is quite good. In fact, there's a panel roof here. And guys, I've only spent maybe about 3 minutes in this vehicle before I started filming. So I press once and it's recessing quite nicely back here, which is crazy. I don't know how it does it. It looks like it accordions up back here. And because I saw multiple partitions in this sunshade, which is crazy. Anyways, you know, this is about as much legroom as you'd have in something like a Corolla Cross. A pretty flat floor though. I mean, there's maybe a 4-inch rise here. And you know, there are all-wheel drive variants of this in non-e-power in Great Britain. There's a mild hybrid variant of this, for example, that comes in a 6-speed manual, go figure. Anyways, that vehicle's not here for me to test. All right, so let's go ahead and get in the front seat. I do like having the smart key access up here. All right, on the inside of the Qashqai, I've been in here for, like I said, just a couple minutes, and well, I did hit my head right here. Let's see if I can lower my seat down. Thankfully I can. I love this. Okay, big screen here, big volume knob. All right, right off to the side, I can see it in my peripherals. That's beautiful. All right, and of course I still have volume control right here. I don't even have to move my hands that much to get to that plus button there on the volume. All right, rotary dials. Hello, rotary dials for climate control. Really big fan of this. It's really simple, easy to use, and I don't know what else to say. The heated seats in here are also working fantastically well, and I'm going to turn the vents down. I don't need it to be working that hard. We don't stress the battery. We want to get good fuel economy. All right, so this setup, absolutely perfect. Let's talk about materials. Soft touch dash. I do have a head-up display. It's very, very bright. I could turn that down in the settings behind here, I think. And it does have the British street signs for, like, you know, speed limit and things like that, with the red circle with the white inside. You guys know what I mean. Here's your start-stop engine button. All right, a little 12-volt. You have a wireless charger here. Auto brake hold, beautiful. You have auto parking as well. E-pedal right there. Okay, so e-pedals, and I tested this in Japan a month ago, e-pedal. And then the Aura was awesome. It's kind of a one-pedal driving. It's really, really intuitive. Of course, you still need to use a brake pedal to come to a stop. You have different drive modes. If I put it into sport, the engine doesn't turn on. Okay, so that's kind of neat. It doesn't automatically fire up the engine. I have auto folding mirrors, which is very important in Great Britain to have that sort of feature. And let's see here, just setting up my mirrors for the drive. I have memory seats here as well. Quite nice. Cup holders in a good spot. More USB-Cs down here. So a total of like 4 in this vehicle. A little extra tray in there as well. All right, beautifully wrapped baseball stitching on the steering wheel. I mean, I can understand why this is a very, very popular vehicle in Europe, all right? But does it drive as well as it looks and feels on the inside? Well, let's buckle up and find out. I mean, they have YouTube on this. That's pretty cool. Something you don't see, I don't think, in the North American Nissans, for example. My turn-by-turn navigation, even though this is pairing off of my phone here, my turn-by-turn navigation is pulled up on my head-up display. Very, very nice graphics as well. All right, so here we are driving the Qashqai 3rd Gen e-Power here. I like this auto-dimming and really thin bezel mirror here. That's quite quality. Most of the Nissan rear view mirrors in the US are quite chunky. All right, oh, there's a Nissan Kicks right there. Oh man, Nissan Kicks is a great looking vehicle too. Oh my gosh, this thing is so smooth. I like the e-pedal, immediately slows the car down. I kind of need to pull out ahead in traffic a little bit. Seamless. No whininess of the engine. And I can tell that it's on, but it's not loud. And they say on the highway, this new 1.5 3-cylinder turbo revs at a lower rev range versus old VC turbo. Okay, so well, let's do the brakes. The brakes here, the regen braking, like I said, e-pedal is great, but you still need to use the brake pedal here and there. And let's keep going. If the engine's on, I can't tell, and I don't see any icon in here to tell me that the engine's on. That is bizarre. If the engine's on, which I'm assuming it is because there's no icon telling me the engine's off, I can feel a little bit of vibration, like a little 4-cylinder vibration. It's not intrusive, but it's just like the engine's staying at a steady RPM. It's really, really, really smooth here. Smoother and quieter than the Aura Nismo that I drove last month in Japan. All right, I can pull up my energy flow here too, which is really, really nice to see what my batteries do. My batteries, it looks like it's about 70 to 80% topped off here. And the engine, well, I think the engine's off because I'm looking at the diagram here. The engine just fired on and I couldn't tell whatsoever. That is crazy. In a Honda hybrid, a Toyota hybrid, especially a Toyota hybrid, you know when the engine is on or off. It's very apparent. Not here. And it just turned off and I have to look down to see, like, that is absolutely bonkers how seamless the engine on and off is. All right, you have to keep in mind the engine doesn't clutch into the wheels at all like it does like a Toyota hybrid. So in a Toyota hybrid, you feel that engine click on and off quite apparently. All right, it's not, you just get used to it in a Toyota hybrid, but those return insane fuel economy in a Toyota hybrid. All right, I don't have, and I don't know if this is by design, and I don't know if this is just maybe it's a European thing, but I don't have a fuel economy gauge on my MID. All right, so thumbing through the menus, I actually found a fuel economy tab here, and I have this car for a little bit longer. All right, so I'm gonna drive around 45, 50 miles an hour here through these windy Tennessee roads and rack up some mileage, let it calculate a bit, and I'll come back and tell you guys the sort of fuel economy I'm seeing here. Keep in mind it's 33 degrees, which is not kind on hybrids due to having a cold battery. I don't think the battery's cold anymore. I'm sure it's warmed up of me driving this for a bit. But I'll see you guys here in a little while after I'm done driving and after this calculates a little bit with some fuel economy readings. What will I say about the NVH of this car? Well, obviously from the engine perspective, it's amazing. Ride quality seems to be okay. It doesn't seem to be that much better, to be honest, than like a Kick's ride quality. It's very quiet though. Like, I don't have acoustic glass here, but it does, like, I'm not getting any wind noise or anything like that. So going up a hill, typically in a hybrid, you'll hear the engine whine and groan. Like in a Toyota hybrid, nothing there. Absolutely nothing. All right, there's kind of a blind turn that I have here. This thing handles well. The steering feels incredible. That was a surprise. The steering was nice and firm there as I took the turn. And it doesn't surprise me. I mean, the Nissan Kicks handles really, really well. It feels just kind of like a lifted Sentra. This doesn't feel as high off the ground as a Kicks. It feels more sedan-like, I guess you could say, but the Kick still handles really, really well. Okay, so we have an area here, perfect, that is 0 to 60 land. All right, it might be slightly uphill, but it's still worth playing with. And here we go. All right. Wow, okay, so holy cow. So much, oh my gosh, 0 to 60, guys, uphill. I was uphill 1.7%. 0 to 60 there was 7.3 seconds, which is very competitive with like a Toyota hybrid, for example. They do 0 to 60 in the 7s too. But that was uphill, so if it was neutral, it'd probably be 7.1, 7.2 seconds. I remember in sport mode, you get an extra 15 horsepower or so. Okay, getting the brakes again. Brake feel is not what I want it to be. Luckily, the E-pedal is really nice here. So you don't have to use the brake pedal as much, but the brake pedal is pretty flimsy feeling. But 7.3 uphill, 0 to 60 is impressive. 7.7, 0 to 100 kilometers per hour. What did it feel like? Well, it didn't feel quite like an electric car from a stop, because electric cars give you all that torque and power immediately, but it felt just as smooth as an electric car. What was really impressive is that once the engine fired on, and it was very quiet and smooth in how it did it, of course, but once the engine fired on, around 30, 35 miles an hour, I got a nice smooth surge of torque and power. And that, it felt like the car like got a second wind around 35, 40, and it just kept pulling. All right, very, very impressive. And that's very different from the Nissan No Ara Nismo. I know that's a different engine. It's a different generation of e-power. Last month in that vehicle in Japan, the No Ara Nismo, it felt like it accelerated well, like 0 to 40, and then it kind of fell off after that. Not the case here. Okay, it kind of hits its stride over 30 miles an hour. All right, and even driving the Nissan, the Leaf electric car, as well as the Aria, Nissan does kind of dole out the acceleration on those cars too, even though those are fully electric. All right, they don't want you to have that neck snapping sort of instant torque and response. They don't want, I don't know, they just kind of want it to be a gentle accelerating vehicle, even on their fully electrics. And that's the case here too on the Qashqai e-Power 3rd gen. I'm driving by an old cemetery right now, and this powertrain has the ability to save Nissan from ending up in the cemetery. Okay, man, the handling is just really impressive here. But the e-Power is exactly the cavalry that Nissan needs to really compete and thrive in the North American market right now. Heck, they know that electric cars stateside is not the answer. They pulled the Aria out of the United States. Meanwhile, Toyota is seeing all-time demand for their vehicles, even Lexus, due to the reliability and the smoothness and the fuel economy that you get from an excellently executed hybrid system. All right, this road's pretty crummy. And so here's Nissan, and if they can pull this off, meaning I know they will with city driving, if Nissan can pull off good fuel economy highway driving, which the jury's still out. I know they've tested this in Europe, in Germany, and it gets about 14% better fuel economy on the highway, but I still don't see it matching Toyota's hybrids and fuel economy on the highway. In town, they might be able to equal or best Toyota's hybrids due to the large battery pack that you have in these sort of hybrids. Regardless, let's say they don't beat Toyota in highway fuel economy, but they maybe match Honda but on the highway with their hybrids, but beat Toyota in city driving with the hybrid. They're going to succeed. And I like how Nissan's hybrid here does beat Toyota. It beats Toyota, Hyundai, and Honda in overall NVH. The engine is just super, super quiet. It's never intrusive, and it makes sense because it just runs as a generator and never clutches into the wheels. And one important thing is responsiveness. What's responsiveness like? Toyota hybrids have great responsiveness. Honda's not so great. Okay, what about the Qashqai here? This is very important. Pedal down. It pulls hard. Don't get me wrong, once it decides to pull. I have about 75% battery, so it's not like the battery is run down. All right, the responsiveness isn't amazing. It feels a little bit better than Honda's, to be honest, but not quite as good as Toyota or Hyundai's responsiveness. All right, and you would think it would have better responsiveness because it is fully electric driven, but it still needs that engine to be chipping in for the system, I would guess, to provide the full power, okay? It feels almost like a downshift, but a really, really smoothed out downshift. And then you get this surge of torque, almost a nauseating surge of torque. Okay, it gives you, okay, it's almost like a two-stage thing, all right? When you get on the pedal, it gives you maybe 10-15% of the torque you want, and then you wait a second longer and it gives you all the torque. All right, so maybe it's nauseating because I'm expecting the torque to kick in a little bit sooner, and it's just a hair delayed with the torque response. But I'm still really satisfied with it. And compared to a Toyota hybrid, it's not quite as quickly responding to my inputs, but man, is it super, super quiet and super smooth. All right, Toyota hybrids, they just whine and yell at you. Even the 5th gen, all right? The 5th gen is a lot better than previous Toyotas, but it's still just not quite very smooth or quiet experience. Here, it's just never offensive. Man, and I'm hot in here. I gotta turn down the AC a bit, turn down the heat, I should say, turn off my heated seat, because Nissan heated seats are scalding hot. All right, let's turn that off. Let's get some AC in here. And okay, this Colorado van is doing a U-turn right here, no big deal. That was weird. They had a Colorado tire cover, but Oregon plates on that camper van. All right, let's get really cold in here. All right, I'm like a bit nauseous because I'm talking during swervy roads. I'm also hitting, you know, the torque a lot with my responsiveness test. So now, Nissan's plan with these e-power hybrids was originally to build them all in Japan, but they will bring some in Japan, but they'll have tons of production here in Smyrna, Tennessee. Will it be enough production? I don't know, it's hard to say. You look at something like the RAV4. RAV4 is fully hybrid now with this newest generation, and the Rogue maybe only gets to, let's say, a fraction. Let's say best case scenario, the Rogue gets 50% hybrid availability. All right, so it's going to be an excellent competitor against Hyundai and Toyota hybrids, absolutely. And look, even the new Cherokee is fully hybrid. And I can guarantee this is the smoothest of them all. However, Hyundai's new hybrid, I haven't tested it because it isn't available yet. For example, on the Tucson, for example, I've tested it on the turbocharged setup, the big engine on the Palisade hybrid, and it is fantastic in that vehicle. Really, really good. So I can't wait to see how it's implemented on a smaller vehicle like the Tucson, all right, hybrid. But Honda has a next gen hybrid coming too. It'll be fun to see how they improve. All right, but when this comes to the States in a year from now, and it's been confirmed by Nissan, end of 2026, we'll have this 3rd gen e-power on the Rogue. When it comes to the States, all right, it will have to have all-wheel drive. And I'm assuming they implement e-axle all-wheel drive just like Toyota implements e-axle all-wheel drive on their hybrids. All right, so it's really efficient, and it actually can allow for a little bit more power, maybe 5-10 more horsepower that it can put down due to the extra motor powering the rear wheels. All right, so I can't say enough about the e-power system. I was really impressed with it with the Note Aura a month ago. This newer system is even quieter, even smoother, even more powerful. The jury's out on fuel economy though, even though on paper it should be around 50 miles per gallon in town, or maybe even combined. If it can do 50 miles per gallon, I know that's here on the Qashqai, but come close on a Rogue, then they're not going to have any issues at all competing with the competition's hybrids. And I don't expect them to have any issues at all competing with other hybrids. Okay, they need to get the price point right, and that can be tricky due to maybe them having twice the size of a battery pack compared to, let's say, a RAV4 hybrid. All right, and yeah, I can't wait. It's going to be fantastic. You know, this is the major weakness Nissan has in America, is not having a reliable and efficient hybrid system. That's all about to be just put aside. Those worries are done. We just still have to wait a year, because what I'm driving right now is a very special, smooth and powerful hybrid, and I think everyone who likes hybrids or isn't interested in hybrid should absolutely be looking forward to this 3rd gen e-power in the Rogue. All right, I am finishing up my quick test drive with the Qashqai. Ooh, and I just turned into the wrong area, so let's test out what the U-turn ability is like here. Good. Is it good enough for this situation? No. All right, I took one turn too early. All right, but I've been in the car for like an hour, and almost an hour and a half. I've driven about 28 miles, meaning I wasn't driving the whole time, right? Because I did the walk around and whatnot. And when I was doing the walk around, it was still idling, which is going to kill your fuel economy. All right, I know it's a hybrid, the engine will turn on and off as it needs to, but it was still running heat. It's saying 44.9, so 45 miles per gallon in cold weather here, but it's pretty optimal conditions, not meaning in cold weather, but around 45, 50 miles an hour, all right, of sustained driving. So 45 miles per gallon is what I saw in the Qashqai. Now, take that with a grain of salt on how that will transfer to the Rogue when we get it stateside, all right? But regardless, even if it's not class leading fuel economy, it'll be class leading NVH. It's just incredibly smooth, incredibly quiet, incredibly enjoyable to drive this 3rd gen e-power. So I got to end it there. Thank you guys. Stay tuned for my other Nissan coverage here. I got Pathfinder stuff coming, Z Heritage, Rogue plug-in hybrid, all right, which is the same thing as the Outlander plug-in hybrid. So lots of stuff coming from Nissan. Stay tuned. I can't wait to update you all. If you have not watched my interview with Mr. Ivan Espinosa, CEO of Nissan, that I did last month at the Mobility Show, go ahead and check out that interview. Click that video somewhere around my face. Have a good day, guys. Peace.